This is the A to Z podcast, episode 18. I'm Anthony Zanni here with Alexander DePalo. We're starting right now, buddy.
All right. It's good to be back. Our first ever post Super Bowl recap game. And what a Super Bowl it is. It started off, I'm not going to lie, as an absolute dud, but it turned out to be an all-time classic going to the second half. Second Super Bowl ever to go into overtime. And much to the chagrin of Zanni and myself, freaking Mahomes came out on top again. It was a great game, but I don't know if I want to say Kansas City won that game or as much as San Francisco lost the game. It could be a compilation of both, but it's hard not to see a team of that ilk with that much talent have a 10-point lead and not be able to get the job done. It's frustrating.
Yeah, it's beyond frustrating. I think this is probably the best coached season of Andy Reid's career, and you got to give him a lot of credit because KC's a mediocre team. A mediocre team just won the Super Bowl, and that's giving a lot of hope to Jet fans everywhere.
I mean, it is. I mean, you said it last week that if they won this game, it would go down as Reid's finest hour as a coach, and it was. He didn't have the talent that was across the field in Shanahan, and but his team was peaking at the right time. They came into the playoffs. They peaked in the 3 weeks prior, and I think that we said it. We watched this game together. That San Francisco dominated that first half, and they were only up 7 going into halftime, 10-3. And if you're Andy Reid, if you're in that locker room, if you're any Kansas City Chief player, you are tickled pink. You are loving life that you did not play well. I wouldn't say I shouldn't say you didn't play well. San Francisco played exceptional in that first half, I thought. They dominated.
KC got dominated in that first half. The fact that they were going to halftime, getting the ball, right? They were getting the ball first in the third quarter, only down a touchdown. You're doing cartwheels back there while Usher's doing his thing.
While Usher's moonwalking across the stage, Andy Reid's eating his hamburger, cheeseburger, and doing cartwheels, because you're 100% right. They did get dominated. I was trying to sugarcoat it. I don't know why I was sugarcoating it. They got dominated, and they were down 7. That is an absolute home run, and they were getting the ball.
That was a big victory for KC, and that had to be a kick in the pants for the Niners. It really did. It had to be a kick in the pants. You just went out there, you absolutely smacked this team in the face, and they're still sitting there getting the ball down a touchdown.
It is. And then
talk about this real quick too, because it's on my mind. So Kyle Shanahan decided not to call timeouts when the Chiefs kicked the field goal, leaving whatever they left on the clock, like 13 seconds left on the clock in the first half. Shanahan could have used his timeouts. Chiefs could have kicked that field goal. They could have had a minute left, and they could have went down there and tried to match and kick a field goal. And this is the second time he pulled that crap. He did this thing again. He did that 2 Super Bowls ago.
And it backfired.
Yeah. Same damn thing.
I mean, we'll get to Shanahan, but he's been on now the sidelines. I don't want to say the biggest collapses, but some of the biggest collapses in postseason history now. Obviously, the 28-3, he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons. That'll go down in history as the biggest collapse. The Los Angeles Rams, or not the Los Angeles Rams. Yeah, the Los Angeles Rams, when they collapsed in the second half of that game, the same exact thing happened. Until he gets over the hump of winning a Super Bowl, it's gonna be his downfall. His teams cannot what? His bugaboo. His bugaboo. It's gonna be his bugaboo. He cannot get over that hump, and it's happening to him time and time again. We've talked about it when we started this podcast that these teams have windows. This was San Fran's window. This 3-4 year stretch when they're not paying their quarterback in Brock Purdy, and it's funny because Brock Purdy was drafted, Mr. Irrelevant, but he's still on a rookie contract, so they don't have to pay him again next year.
Correct.
But now he's your starting quarterback, and if you can get him deep in the playoffs next year, they have to pay the guy. This was their window. This was the year, and they didn't get it done again.
The 49ers have had a window for 12 years at this point. They've had a longer window than I feel like even the Patriots went through, and the Patriots won 7 championships. They've had a very long window of being a very, very good football team, and they just can't seem to win a championship. It's unfortunate. I mean, if you were a fan of the 49ers, you have to be proud of the fact that they're just putting together a winning organization year in and year out. It's pretty cool. But you need to win a championship. They were top to bottom the best team in the league this year. How they didn't win this game, like you said before, not trying to take anything away from the Chiefs, really not. The 49ers were a better football team, and they were a better football team in the first half. Second half, the defense looked like it got tired. It got tired. They didn't have any heart in the second half. They were blitzing on weird times to blitz. They were also playing 10 yards off the receivers on weird times to play 10 yards off the receivers. Like they just did a lot of things that didn't make a whole lot of sense to us when we were watching it. And it'd be like, they'd stop them on first down and it'd be second and 14, second and 17, whatever the case may be. And you're like, all right, we got something going here. They're going to go 3 and out. And then they'd back off. They'd give them a quick 10, 11, 12 yards. And all of a sudden it's 3rd and 4. And it's like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, I don't understand.
It is funny you say that because Romo kept bringing that up on the broadcast where it was like linebackers are deep, safeties are deep. They're giving the underpass at an 8-yard clip, and it was without fail, boom, 8. And it was a second and 14, second and 15 play. Now all of a sudden is a third and manageable, somewhat manageable quote, right. 7 at that point in time. And that was brutal. But let's talk about the first half specifically. So I think we kind of nailed it with the game plan that San Fran was going to come out, utilize CMC. He had a phenomenal game. At the end of the day, if San Fran wins that game, CMC's your MVP going away. He had a touchdown, well over 150 all-purpose yards. The guy was the man on a mission. Costly fumble on the first opening drive because they were punching him in the mouth. They were moving the ball. KC didn't have an answer on that first drive. Big time turnover. No question about that. And the San Francisco
I agree with you. It was a big time turnover. You never want a turnover like that. Didn't really hurt them per se. They were still up 3. Then they Pacheco fumbled. Then they wound up getting a touchdown. So now you're up 10. So you can't say like, oh, it should have been 17 or it should have been 13 or whatever.
No.
But it was a bad spot to fumble the football. They really were marching down and punching them in the face.
Yeah, I mean they would have got. I think easily they would have gotten points on that drive. Looking at it, no matter what. But the San Francisco defense was stellar. You could just tell from the first time they took the field, they were different from what they were against Green Bay. They were different than what they were against Detroit, and they were stopping the run. They were double teaming Kelsey. They were doing everything that you'd expect them to do. And then I don't know what the hell happened at halftime. Was it a fatigue thing? Was it a game plan thing? Everything just shifted from what they were succeeding at in the first half. They couldn't succeed in the second half.
Yeah, again, that's very fair to say. The 49ers offense also was irrelevant in the third quarter. And I think that has something to do with it, that it was almost like a role change where the first half was dominated by the Niners, and they kept possession of the ball. I don't have the time of possession in front of me, but it was a lot to very little. And then the third quarter was like a complete switch. The Niners were going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. They just couldn't get anything going. And trying to pull it up right now.
It was wild. The third quarter was a tough quarter for the San Francisco offense, for lack of a better term. They were, every drive that they have, I don't want to say it was 3 and out, but they weren't moving the ball at all, and maybe it was a fatigue problem. But the big thing that I saw was Kelsey in the first half for KC was 1 catch. I think it was for 1 yard, and in the second half, I think he had 7 or 8 catches or something like that for 92 yards. And I don't want to say that the game shifted on that because of Travis Kelsey, because it was Andy Reid. And other players stepped up in his stay, whether it was Watson, whether it was Noah Gray or something along those lines. Other guys were stepping up, and that's the magic of Mahomes. The fact that we've gone 10 minutes into this podcast and haven't mentioned Mahomes is unbelievable, but the guy was special. He was special in the fourth quarter. He was special in overtime. And the reason what made him so special is everything that we talked about. He trusted his defense more than he has in any other Super Bowl. He wasn't taking the big shot. One time he did take the big shot, but he was taking what was given to him, and when he had to, he was taking off. He was their, if I read that correctly, he was their leading rusher over Pacheco, which is amazing. On 9 carries, I think he had 66 yards. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. And you can't argue with that. With the guy played phenomenal. And he deserved the MVP. And now all these ESPN, FS1, everything you read online is giving you the Tom Brady Mahomes debate. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. But it's hard not to look at the stats at his age and the first, whatever it is, 7, 8 seasons in the league, and you compare him. Right now, it's not a comparison. Mahomes is blowing him out of the water. Other than Super Bowl titles, he has more passing yards, more touchdowns, less interceptions. He's blowing him out of the water. If he gets 5 championships, 6 championships, then the discussion is there because his stats are going to be way better than Brady. And it was pretty special to watch what he did in that fourth quarter in the second and in the overtime.
Yeah, I mean, you can't deny how good the guy is. It's very frustrating. It's very frustrating how good he is. You also can't make the leap saying his stats are going to be way better than Tom Brady because Tom Brady did it for so long, whereas Mahomes is doing it currently. Okay, on a dime in the NFL, and things change on a dime in life. And he could have a major injury and miss a year. He can have a major injury, miss 3 years. He can have a major injury and never play again in his life, right? Brady had that one injury and he was out for a full season. So Mahomes is playing very, very well right now, but he needs to play this well over the next 10 years. And over those next 10 years, because he's what, 27 right now?
28.
28. Let's just assume he plays until he's 38, which is it's a long time to play football. He would also have to win 4 more championships in 10 years, which it's really difficult to win a championship. Like I know it seems like, oh, this is what we do. We just get to the AFC championship game. We go to the Super Bowl, we win.
Yep.
It's insane to get there. And I know you're gonna mock me for this, but like the AFC is getting better. Joe Burrow's not gonna be hurt every year. The Bengals are a pest. The Jets should theoretically be decent next year. Miami's not always gonna be a bunch of pushovers. The Bills are a good football team, and obviously, you know, a lot's gonna happen with them in free agency. The Ravens are the Ravens. They're not fun to play. Like I don't have the faith in Lamar to win that big game because I just don't have the faith in him as a passer. But he's not a fun person to play. You don't want to play him. You never like you see that and you're like, oh God, I gotta go up against Lamar. Like, come on. It's not an easy journey to win a Super Bowl in the NFL. And to say he's going to win 4 more is absurd. To say he's gonna win 1 more, it's a lot to say. Like, and I know that sounds crazy because this guy, all he does is they just get to the freaking Super Bowl and they pretty much win. But it's not that easy. And I don't know what the shelf life is on Andy Reid, but Andy Reid is literally one of the greatest coaches of all time. And that guy doesn't get enough credit for how he's coached his entire career. All he does is win. And he's not going to be there forever. And when he's not there, I don't think they're as scary anymore. I really don't. I mean, they weren't really a scary football team this year. Like I said, they were a pretty mediocre football team. They were quite honestly mediocre offensively. Defensively, they played really well all year. Offensively, not a scary team. I expect them to change that. I expect them to bring in better free agents, better people that can actually catch a football, stuff of that nature. Better offensive line. Like there's things that they're going to fix. Mahomes is fine, but this was look at Mahomes' stats for this year. It was bad, man. I mean, for his standards,
Right.
it was bad.
Right.
People picking him in fantasy, they were not happy all year long.
I'm with you, and it was because of that offense. But I think exactly what you just said, Andy Reid. You want to say it's similar to Belichick and Tom Brady, and when they break up, obviously Tom did win that other Super Bowl without Belichick, but I don't think that. I mean, it's impossible to say, but Andy Reid is a huge driver of this team right now, and obviously he has Kelsey. He has Kelsey. Kelsey's 34. I predicted he was going to retire after the game. He got on the podium. Did you watch the post game? He goes, "I'll see you next year." I was like, "God damn it, he's coming back." So that was a little frustrating, but this was remarkable because those other 2 Super Bowls he had the better team. This was the team that had to fight and claw, not to get into the playoffs, but to every single round of the playoffs was an absolute war for them. They won it, and then they won the ultimate war and prize in the Super Bowl when they had a lesser version of the team. And let's not to keep this debate going, but let's not forget Tom Brady later on in his well into his 30s was having MVP type season, monster type season when he was throwing God knows how many touchdown passes to Randy Moss. Like the guy was like a fine wine, getting better and better with time. And you talk about injuries. Is it possible that Mahomes is going to get better? The game's going to even slow down for him more. I don't know, but he also needs those weapons around him. Travis Kelce ain't getting younger. You take Travis Kelce off this team. Where's this offense going? You're going to rely on Scantling. You're going to rely on McCole Hardman. You're going to rely on the other tight ends. I don't know. I just don't know.
It's a hard listen. Having these debates is always an impossible thing, right?
Impossible.
It's fun to fantasize about it and think about it. And the thing about Brady is, people will always say, like, "Whoa, you're not going to say he's the GOAT. So you tell me, game's on the line. You can pick anybody in your prime. Who's going to be it?" Right. And then you'll go there. There's so many really good quarterbacks that came around this league, from Joe Montana, Steve Young, Aaron Rodgers. There's just so many of them. There's countless that you can say, I love this guy to have the ball in his hands, right? Brady just did it year in and year out. That was the thing about Brady. So like he just did it every single year until he was 40. How old was he? 42? Like how old was he when he freaking
44, I think it was.
or like God, my God, dude. Like he just kept doing it. And
Yes.
by the way, he could have easily played. He absolutely could have played.
Mm-hmm.
And he would have been fine. He would have been just as good as always. Is that going to be Mahomes? I don't know. It's hard to say, man. Like, does he have the desire to be what Tom Brady had the desire to do? Tom Brady lived it. Like people forget, they act like he just went home and he was like, all right, I'm just going to drink a six pack. And dude, he had a strict diet. He had a strict workout routine. He had a strict stretching routine.
Catching routine.
That he learned from Ichiro, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like that guy wanted to be the greatest of all time. There's many people in life that want to be great at something, but they don't do anything off the field. And I'm not trying to say that Mahomes isn't. I have no idea. I'm not living with Mahomes. I couldn't tell you what the hell he's doing. Obviously, he's very good. Is he going to be getting better? I don't know. It's just hard, man. Like, plus, running is a thing for him. Running was never a thing for Tom Brady.
Nothing.
Right? Like, if Brady was rushing and he ran for like 10 yards, you were like, what the hell just happened? Like, I'm not saying Mahomes needs that because he can certainly chuck it, but it certainly helps out. And as he gets older, he's going to lose his legs, which means he's going to only be able to throw the football. So that's another thing that's going to get taken away from his game, not really get better. So it's a large debate, but if you're asking me if he's better than Tom Brady, my answer is hard no. But there's going to be people out there that say yes.
I mean, and this is a debate for another day because his career is long over. But let's look at a couple of things that happened during the game that I thought were fascinating. So you saw Travis Kelce, I mean, lose his effing mind when it was Pacheco. I'm sorry, it was Pacheco who fumbled the ball inside the red zone, correct? And
five.
It was at the 5, right? And Kelce lost his mind. I mean, bumping his own coach. And listen, if they would have lost that game, that would have been a much bigger story than it was. Andy Reid went on the post-game shows, diffuses the situation like he obviously should have. But it was odd. I don't even know another word to describe it. To watch that live and to see it in that situation, you don't see many times professional athletes, especially professional athletes who have won championships before, react in that manner. Now, on the flip side, I loved it. This is a guy who's been there, done that, won 2 championships, and he is that competitive, wanted it that bad. I'm not saying assault somebody. I'm not saying like, you could chill, but the passion, the desire was admirable. I really didn't think it was admirable. But you can't get physical with somebody like that, especially a guy in his 60s who's 150 pounds overweight.
Yeah, we joked at the time that could you imagine somebody doing that to Bill Belichick? And
No.
that somebody doing that would have been benched for the rest of the Super Bowl.
100%. 100%. I actually think if it was anybody other than Travis Kelce, if it was like Dirk McKinnon or some other guy, like he's done. He's done for the game, right?
I mean, I think so. I don't know. I don't know the relationship that Reed has. I know. Listen, Belichick runs a completely different program, and I don't think people are very close with him. I don't think players are very close with him. Andy Reid probably has a bit more of a player's coach in him. Either way, it was weird. It was a weird reaction to have, and I doubt he was trying to. In the moment, I doubt he was trying to like hit him as hard as he did. And I'm sure he would probably say that. But on replay, it looked like it really rocked him.
Yes, yes. Like I mean, he heard him yelling at him, and then he I mean, he didn't even try to grab him, which was the funny part about it. But I was like, this guy's going down. This guy's going down.
Yeah.
And could you imagine Andy Reid sprains his ankle or breaks pops his shoulder out because he gets body checked by Travis Kelce?
Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah. That would have been rough.
All right, and then looking at San Francisco, what'd you think of Brock Purdy? What'd you think of their game plan? What'd you think of their? I thought they did a crap job, um, working in any of their receivers at all. I thought Debo Samuel was a complete non-entity. Ayuk had some nice catches, but when you watch that first half, I felt like the slant patterns, the everything over the. I thought the middle of the field was wide open in the first half, and then they just completely went away from it in the second half. And Kittle again, just a non-factor in the game. But I thought overall Brock Purdy showed out well in this particular game, except for the third quarter.
So I thought their game plan. I thought literally the first half they were just rocking and rolling. They were doing anything they wanted to. They were imposing their will. It just didn't really show in the on the scorecard, so to speak. It just didn't really show. Like we said, 10-3 at halftime. I think the Chiefs sign up with that and they said, okay, no problem. I don't think you can say they weren't trying to work in the receivers. I mean, Debo had 11 targets. Ayuk had 6. Jennings had 5. They were actually not working in the middle of the field, like you said. Like they weren't working the Kittle. They weren't working the middle of the field. Um, it just wasn't. I don't really know why they weren't. They were almost trying to force the ball to the outside a lot when they were throwing. And the third quarter was just they went 3 and out 3 times in a row in the third quarter, and that was pretty much the entire third quarter for them. And then the fourth quarter, they started coming back to like how they played in the first half. How did I feel like Purdy looked? I thought he looked very composed. Can't really tell if he's winning or losing. This is going to be a comparison that's going to get me a little heat because I obviously don't mean it. But he reminds me of Tom Brady a lot, where like you just can't exactly tell what's up. Like if you turn on a game and you just see him playing, you wouldn't necessarily know the score. If he's up 30-0 or down 30-0, he's very composed. To say that about a kid is pretty special. I'm not saying he's going to be Tom Brady. I'm not saying that at all. I definitely don't think he's a game manager. And people are comparing him to Jimmy Garoppolo already. They're like, oh, he's just another Jimmy G. No, he's far better than Jimmy G. He made some really big throws, really good throws. I just don't think the coaching held up, and I don't think the defense held up. I think the defense got kind of exhausted. They were on the field a lot in the fourth quarter, and I don't think that held up. But I really think Purdy played pretty damn well, and it wasn't. Listen, he threw for 255 yards and a touchdown,
Yeah,
23 for 38. It wasn't the
he didn't
great
win. Yeah,
world, but he certainly did not lose you that game in any way, shape, or form. There was a lot of throws that he technically could have made had he had a split second more of time to throw the football. There was multiple times where Ayuk was wide open on a touchdown, and the Chiefs guy, I forget his name, Chiefs guy came in and was hitting him. There was another time there was a guy open, even in overtime. They had an easy touchdown. If he's looking at Ayuk on that play in overtime, it's a touchdown. But
Mhm.
he's not looking at Ayuk. He's not the number one read there. He's looking out here in the flat. And who's the Chiefs guy? Why am I drawing a blank on the defender?
Chandler Jones.
Chandler Jones. Thank you. Chandler Jones comes in unblocked. Like, what do we do? How do you miss him? Like, what are you
Mhm.
talking on the biggest play?
Right, right.
Oh, let's not block this guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, don't think it was Purdy. I thought he played well. I think they'll be fine with him moving forward. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think it's ever a question anyway. but they will have a very good team again next year, and they'll be right back. I don't necessarily know Super Bowl, but they'll be right back there in the thick of things.
So you said, read that from me again. How many targets did Debo have?
Debo had 11 targets.
So I'm actually stunned by that. In watching that game, without knowing that stat right now, would you have guessed that Debo had 11 targets?
Yeah, they were throwing a lot to the receivers, and they just weren't using the middle of the field. Like they weren't using the Kittles, and that's why I kept saying like you even said at one point you were like, "Is Kittle hurt? Is he on the field?"
Yeah, yeah.
On the field, like they're not using him, and I don't know, I was a little flabbergasted over that. Like you got to work him into the rotation a little bit. Like yeah, I don't know, just soften up the defense a little bit with him. They just weren't really utilizing that. He wound up having 2 catches for 4 yards.
Yeah, that can't happen. That can't happen. I I think the thing that frustrated me with again, surprised that Debo had 11 targets. It was more of the not being able to get him the ball in space. I think he's a unbelievably dynamic player. I don't know if it was, a wide receiver screen or a quick slant to him just to get him in space, get him to run instead of just utilizing him as a he's not your biggest receiver where if you run him on a like a typical wide receiver tree route, a curl in the flat, like he'll make you the play. But I want him with the ball in space, like you would have for a running back, because that's when he's going to do the most damage. I just don't think they did a good enough job in getting him the ball in space in time. 11 targets was way more than I would have guessed. And that's the one thing I was definitely disappointed with. But going back to Brock Purdy, again, exactly like you just said, he didn't win the game for them, then he certainly didn't lose the game for him. And it was just they did not have a good third quarter, and that ultimately was the turning point in the game. I mean, the real turning point in that game for me was that punt. I mean, that is something you were apoplectic when it happened, and rightfully so, because you are getting the ball back. All you have to do is obviously not turn the ball over. And obviously they go over this a million times. It's frustrating when the guy's not catching the ball and you're not yelling poison, poison, poison for your team to get away, and that ball hits the foot, and then that's it. And the more frustrating part about it is the hits his foot, and instead of just falling on the ball and accepting it, he's trying to pick it up, scoop it, and gain yards. I mean, it was a stupid play in the moment. You don't want to fault guys who are trying to make the play, but a monster play in that moment for sure.
Yeah. So what I don't understand about football, and this is all football, is there's times that you're going to return a punt, and there's times where you're really not. This was not really a return situation, right? This
No.
was like, I'm just going to fair catch the ball, and we're going to take over on the 15-yard line, and we're going to call it a day. Now, for me, the juice isn't worth the squeeze to even try to catch the football. It's not. And I know how crazy that sounds. Oh, these are professionals. They practice it every day. It's not worth it. Bring your return man up. All right. Just play almost like a prevent defense where they're not going to fake it. I'm not saying they're going to fake it because clearly they're not. Let them punt the ball. Wherever they down the ball, you take over. That's all you needed to do. So the fact that you even had blockers getting within 5 yards of him, and you even had a guy there trying to fair catch it, and I know I'm going to take heat for this, I think that's crazy. You just don't need it there. You really don't. It's not a return situation. It is what it is. Get the football and try to score. You gave them the ball on the whatever yard line, 10, 7,
20? Yeah.
20, I don't remember where it was. And 2 plays later, they march in for a touchdown after you held them touchdownless the entire game, and it kind of like got them their mojo and got them going. And it just was such a wasted thing over you touching the ball with your foot. And kudos to the return man, by the way. Like when it first happened, we're like, why would this guy touch the ball? And then you see the replay and you're like, oh, that's
Yes.
his own man in the foot. He was able to recognize that, and he tried to, be a hero and make the play. It just didn't happen. But that's just a situation that can't happen. It's a situation that can't happen. So if you want to say, all right, we're going to put our return man back there, then you're right. That ball goes in the air. He needs to be yelling poison, and everybody, including him, needs to be 20 yards away from the football. Like there's just no reason for that to happen. And it's a terrible, terrible play. And it wound up, you can't say cost them the Super Bowl. I mean, they were still in the game, but certainly made things a lot easier for the
It was a
Chiefs.
turning point. It was a turning point in the game. Like you said, the defense hadn't let up a touchdown, right? In that before that moment.
Correct.
And now you're putting they just got to stop the mental aspect of it. They just got to stop, and you're putting them back on the field. That's demoralizing. You're putting them back on the field inside their own 20. We'll give you pushback. I mean, you're crazy. You're putting the return guy back out there. This is not high school football. Yes, yes.
No, I'm not. Why? So we can catch the ball on a 16-yard line? What's the worst that's going to happen? The worst that's going to happen is they're going to down the ball on the 3. No problem. I'll take it. Guess what? I'm still up 10-3.
I mean,
the momentum. Like, I understand that the fact that he should be able to catch a ball on the 16-yard line. I get that. But at that point in time, at the very least, your blockers shouldn't be anywhere around him. There's no way that can happen.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. And
if you want to do that, then you say, hey, return man, we're going to fair catch this. Everybody else, get the hell off the field. And that's fine. I'd be okay with that. If he just stands back there, he does his little wave and catches the ball. But it's either one or the other. It's either that option or just get everybody off the field. We're going to get the ball back.
It's more of the and obviously it's being coached and taught. The guys who are blocking the ball. When I was playing special teams in high school, yes, that's correct. You were taught to find the freaking ball. When you were taught to block, and then find the ball. Like it's crazy to me how both of the gunners, the guys who are the kick team, they don't look for the ball, and the guys who are blocking, like they don't look for the ball. Like everybody's communicating punt left, punt right, so they know what direction to go. Like these special teams guys, and I've said it to you multiple times. I've said it to a lot of people. The greatest athletes in the world, when they go to field a punt on the kicking team, trying to prevent that ball from going into the end zone, become me out there. They become absolute spazzes, and they cannot either catch the punt, they can't react to it when it hits the ground, and then when it gets too close and they have to tiptoe and bat it, they can't do it. I've never seen anything like it before.
It is very, very hard to field a punt. Like, and people are gonna laugh all they want. You got the lights on you, right? You can not see for a second. You got so many fans there. The place is going crazy. You're in the Super Bowl, millions of people watching a game. Like, to me, it's not worth it to try to attempt to catch the ball because I've seen so many muffs, and that's not a return situation. If the Chiefs are on their own 16 and they're punting the ball and you want to return it, I get that. I actually understand that. But this isn't a return situation. You were going to call for a fair catch, and it is what it is. Instead, the Chiefs take over on the 16-yard line. One play later, they have a touchdown. You just gifted them a touchdown. It just wasn't worth it to me. And I'm shocked that I don't see more teams adapt the model that I created.
Your model's ridiculous. The one thing I will agree with you on, and this was it when we were kids all the time, the return men, we were talking that it was the 10-yard line last night. It was like the 15. Never go back on the 15 because like at that point, go with your analogy, the juice not worth the squeeze. Like, who cares if you field it on the 15 or they down it inside the 5? Like that
now
10
you're
yards.
on my side here. You're telling me that I'm crazy, but now you're on my side. He was trying to catch the ball on the 16-yard line. The 16. So that 1 yard, that's the big difference maker.
That's it. That's what I'm talking about. That 1 yard was the big deal. I'm not saying don't put anybody back there. You're saying you know what?
That
put
the
defense out there
to get the hell off the field and let the return man actually fair catch it, or the return man shouldn't be there. That is right. That's what I'm saying. The return man shouldn't be there, or the blockers shouldn't be there. You pick which one.
I want the return man there, and I want blockers who have half a brain and can spot a ball.
Like, they don't have half a brain. You can't get what you want. You're missing the point.
It was the turning point in the game. Can we agree on that?
The turning point of the game. They got handed. They got gifted 7 points in a Super Bowl. You can't do that. You can't gift the Chiefs 7 points. It cannot happen. And that put the Chiefs up, by the way. They were trailing in the game 10-6 at that point. And then
that put them up.
That put them up 13-10.
Yep.
And then the Niners actually responded right away. They finally put a drive together. It lasted 6 minutes and 6 seconds. They marched 12 yards for 75 yards, and they got a nice touchdown. And then shortly after that, missed extra point. And you're like, are you freaking kidding me?
And that missed extra point turned out to be a huge play. And crap for the kicker, Moody, because up until then, this dude was their MVP of this game. I mean, hitting 57-yarders, 55-yarders. But when you watch that replay on the extra point, there's nobody to blame but himself. He cooked it He kicked it 8 yards off the ground. I'm sorry, 8 yards, 8 feet off the ground.
Yeah, yeah. I don't even know if it was 8 feet, to be honest with you, because the guys were like hunched over and
Right.
reaching their arm up. So it was probably more like 7 feet.
It was like they didn't
Terrible.
really have to jump. They were just like, all right, extra point. They just go like this, like the obligatory let's try type of thing. That was a huge play because in the subsequent drive, when it was and you have it in front of you, it was KC. We said it multiple times. You kick the field goal here or go for it. And we were on the same page. If they hit that extra point, you're going for it. But now you have the chance to tie the game. And that's exactly what they did. They took the points.
So I think, yes, correct. So I think that it was 2nd and 3 on the third on the San Fran 3 yard line. And then it was, I'm sorry, 2nd and goal. And then it was 3rd and goal on the 3 yard line. They threw the ball with Mahomes, which they probably would have still thrown the ball with Mahomes, but they would have had a different play call. It would have been a quicker out. The ball would have been out of his hands quicker. So they wound up taking a sack on 3rd down, and then the ball moved back to the 6 yard line. I don't necessarily know that they go for it on a 6. If they're down by 4, though, there's still 5:46 left in the game at that point. They have 2 timeouts. I don't necessarily know that they go for it, because if they kick the field goal, they're going to get the ball back anyway. Even if the Niners scored a touchdown somehow,
You're still within a score.
still within a score and a 2-point conversion. So, and if they hold the Niners, you kick a field goal, you win the game. So I don't necessarily know if they would have went for it, but it would have been interesting to see for sure. I think it would have just been a little more fun. With them only down 3 at that point, it was a no-brainer. Just tie the game, give the ball back to the 49ers and try to go from there.
But in your hypothetical situation right there, if they were if they were up 1, they kicked the field goal, and the score at that point would have been 17-16. San Fran goes down, scores a touchdown. You get Shanahan's going for 2 at that point. Has to.
Wait, you're confusing me.
So if it was in your hypothetical, if they would have gotten that extra point and
4,
they would have been up 4, and KC in that situation kicks the field goal.
Niners are up 1 point.
Correct. And the Niners got the ball back, go down and score a touchdown. You have to think in that situation, Shanahan's going for 2.
No, get the hell out of here. No, he's not. No, he's
Why?
I mean, being up 8 points or I mean, I get it. I definitely get it. I can see where you're coming from. I mean, you can win the Super Bowl by getting a 2-point conversion here. You score from 2 yards out and the Super Bowl's over.
100%.
And if you don't, you put the ball in Mahomes' hand. I mean, yeah.
And then you give Andy Reid the chance to go for 2 to win the game.
No, Andy Reid would have to go for 2 to tie the game.
I'm sorry. Yes, I apologize. Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. But if you didn't get that, then you'd give Andy Reid a chance of going for 2 to win the game. If you didn't get your 2-point conversion.
No. Oh my God. This is why we don't do math in public. If San Fran scores there, they're up 7. So if they kick the extra point, they're up 8. If they go for 2, they would be up. Am I wrong about this? They would be up. I am wrong about this. My math is terrible. I'm done. I'm done talking. We have to edit this. This never happened. I'm wrong. I'm so wrong. My brother's gonna be embarrassed. My nephew is listening to this. He's like, my God, he can't do math.
You're already embarrassed.
Holy cow! No, you're right. What I said at first is correct. What I said initially is correct. It's a good debate, but
Great hypothetical.
Great hypothetical for sure. But them going in overtime. Shame on us. Shame on me for not knowing that I guess in 2022 the NFL changed the postseason overtime rules.
Why would we know that? It never happened before. Why would
it had never happened, and apparently several players on the 49ers didn't know it either. That's shame on them because this is your professional. This is your craft.
If we didn't know it, man, and we do this, every day, they're not going to know it. These guys,
I mean, you're right.
These guys don't listen. They don't. This isn't. They wake up, they go to work, they have their own thing. They're not discussing overtime. Nobody's discussing overtime.
But listen to this. So it is funny. I read this that the Kansas City players had said they had every single week of the postseason got their overtime brief on their strategy, on the rules, on if they were going for 2, not going for 2, if they were going to get the ball, not take the ball. And that's what Kansas City was doing. And the 49ers, what?
Andy Reid for you.
It's Andy Reid, and then apparently the 49ers had no idea that the rules had even changed. And I'm not saying the coaching staff didn't know that. I'm talking about the players. I don't think that affects anything personally. It would have been wild though. Listen to this. If they didn't know the rules changed,
It's going crazy.
49ers get the ball, go down, score the touchdown, and then it's like they run onto the field going bananas.
Gatorade poured over the coach.
I'm just like, what are these idiots doing? I mean, that would have been an all-time moment right there. Like Shanahan's just trotting on, like waving his hand, looking for Andy Reid.
Shanahan knew the rule, FYI.
Oh, I know.
But that would have been great, though. That would have been great. I would have liked that a lot.
But when the ref announced the rules, me and you both looked at each other confused, and I was like, wow, this is an awesome change. I did really love the change. And then there was this ongoing debate on 49ers won the toss on whether or not the 49ers should have taken the ball or kicked. And it's a fascinating debate because there is import and knowledge with knowing what you need on offense, having that extra down on offense.
Because
But the 49ers
downs. You have 4 downs to figure it out as opposed to 3 downs. Instead of getting 10 yards and 3 downs, you now have 4 downs to get 10 yards. So the math is perfect. Like it makes sense to be
my math or actual math, because you know me and my math.
probably not your math, but actual math, it's the analytics, and I'm not an analytic guy, but the analytic is there for that. But what Shanahan was saying, and I don't know if he was just saying this after the fact, but he was saying that they were basically saying if we both scored touchdowns or we both scored a field goal, we would get the ball third. And third would almost be like getting the ball first in sudden death overtime, right? Where if they scored, they win. So like I get it. Where they went wrong, I feel like, is if you don't get a touchdown in that first drive, you're kind of screwed. Like you really are. You're kind of screwed because now the Chiefs now basically have 4 downs every time to get into field goal range, and then a touchdown and the game's over. So it's just I feel like the defense felt that way too, and they were almost playing that way that entire overtime drive, where it was like I gotta pull it up now, but it was what was it 4? So it was
I mean, they got him to fourth down eventually, and that was a phenomenal
and they called the RPO, which was
phenomenal play.
insane play call, like absolutely insane play call. Bosa bit big time going after Pacheco, and Mahomes just walked for a first down.
And they put that defender again. I don't know who it is on an island between either taking Mahomes or taking Kelsey. It was like pick your poison at that point.
Oh, the other defender. I got you. Yeah, I mean,
Mahomes is keeping that ball.
But it doesn't matter though. When there's one guy and 2 players there, you're already lost. So the fact that like Bosa can't choose Pacheco in that situation, but that's the job. The job is the RPO. Like if he chooses Mahomes, hypothetically, Mahomes would have handed the ball off. I don't think he does there. You know what I mean? Like I feel like if Bosa goes after Mahomes, Mahomes doesn't hand the ball off because he's not going to release the ball. Like I just don't see him not having the ball with the championship on the line.
So sorry to interrupt you. So they were interviewing Mahomes after the game, talking about that play specific, because when it happened, I was like, I mean, I was blown away by the play call, gutsy, ballsy, and it worked to absolute perfection. Totally agree with you. Bosa obviously went downhill, took out the running back. The way Mahomes and maybe he didn't understand the question. The way Mahomes described the play, it was a RPO between him and Kelsey, and Pacheco was going to be a fake no matter what. It wasn't an option to him. Yeah.
Wow. That's so if Bosa takes Mahomes,
He's got to throw that ball real quick.
49ers win a Super Bowl then.
Yep.
He's still going to throw it, obviously, but 49ers win a Super Bowl if that's the case.
Yep. I mean, that's the way he described it. And again, I don't know if it was 100% true. But going back to the decision by Shanahan, and I don't know if this factored into his thought process at all. The defense was gassed. You had mentioned it earlier. They were on the field to end the game going into overtime. that had to factor in a little bit to him, give his defense a chance. Because I think if he decides the option that we're talking about, take the ball second, I think Mahomes goes down the field like without question and scores a touchdown there.
Yeah, and then your offense has all the pressure in the world. Listen, I get the analytics of it, I get the math of it, I really do, but it doesn't factor in like the human emotion component. It doesn't factor in pressure and all that stuff. And if the 49ers are able to go march down the field, which they did in overtime,
Yep.
by the way, we can get into
Well, they did, but they got bailed out on a holding call. Not that it wasn't a holding call. They would have went 3 and out there.
absolutely right. I mean, the drive started off very poorly. You're 100.
Terrible. Terrible.
They did get bailed out on a holding call. It was a hold, but
Yes.
it was not. It was like, come on, man! Like this is what is going to happen. After that, the drive actually picked up for them, and they started marching down the field.
Mhm.
They got down to the
The
K.
4, I think it was, wasn't it?
Got down to the KC 9.
9. Okay.
It was 2nd and 4 from the 9. And I felt that and this is going to sound a little silly because they rushed the ball with CMC, so you can't really go too wrong with that. But it felt like it was a giveaway play call. That's what it felt like. And they gained nothing on it. And then it was 3rd and 4 from the 9. And that's when I said Purdy had Ayuk wide open for a touchdown, but Ayuk was not the main read. The main
Yeah.
read was flat, and Chandler Jones was in the backfield in a nanosecond. So there was nothing they could do. They just pretty much threw the ball away. And
He's lucky he got that ball away.
he is, and they settled for a field goal. So now here, and this is crazy, do you go for it there on the 9-yard line? Do you go for it on 4th and 4, knowing that a touchdown gives you a pretty good chance of winning the Super Bowl, right? But if you don't get it, the Chiefs just have to march down the field and kick a field goal, and the game's over. It's an interesting. I'm not saying I would have gone for it there. If I was going to though, my 3rd down play call wouldn't have been what they called. So I think that tells you that they were going to kick.
Right. That was the debate. That was the debate today that you saw everywhere. Like, how could you give the ball back to Mahomes knowing he just needs a touchdown to win the game? In that moment, I didn't even, and I don't think you did either. I didn't flinch at the choice of going, kicking the field goal in that moment. We both hated the 2nd down play. But again, maybe the 2nd down play was a dead giveaway that they would have settled for the field goal had they not got the 1st down. Because again, flip it. They go for it. They don't get it. And exactly what you said, he has to move the ball 50, 60 yards and you kick a field goal. And people are going to be like, what are you doing in that situation? Not that it was a shortened field, but you're giving Mahomes the chance to just move the ball a little bit, kick your field goal, and the game's over, and you lose on a field goal instead of making him score a touchdown. I don't begrudge Shanahan making the decision to take the ball in overtime, and I don't begrudge him kicking the field goal in that moment at all.
I don't do either. I think both of them were fine. And like you said, you're not factoring in the fact that defense was gassed with a capital G, bro. They were gassed. They did not look good in the. I mean, it's hard to say in the 4th, but late in the 4th, they just looked like a very tired defense. They played well all game. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. They really did. They played well and they played hard all game, but they were absolutely gassed. And I wouldn't have put them on the field because I think the Chiefs would have just marched right down and scored a touchdown. Now you have all the pressure in the world trying to match that. Granted, you have the extra down to do it, but it's a hard thing to do. So I'm fine with the play calls. I'm fine with how it went. It just didn't work out for the Niners.
Did you happen to catch what the over under started at and then ultimately ended at for that Super Bowl?
It started at 47.5, 48.
47.5, and then I think it dropped down to 46.5.
Gotcha.
And that them not kicking that extra point, the amount of money that changed hands is crazy to me.
Yeah, that's wild.
I mean, we've talked about this a lot, but I mean, how they get it that spot on for those numbers is just absolutely incredible to me.
Yeah, they pay off a lot of people to get that.
It's all rigged. The whole thing is rigged.
I am joking. I'm thought it being a really fun Super Bowl to watch. I mean, definitely not the outcome that I feel like most of America wanted. Just so tired of Kansas City. So tired. Can't take anything away from them, man. Just really, I'm telling you, this was their best year, best win in terms of like being a okay football team, like being a very beatable football team, a very mediocre offense, very solid defense. They really got to give credit to Spags, by the way.
Mm,
We
mm,
haven't touched on that at all. That guy,
hmm.
he's going to be in the Hall of Fame for just being one of the best defensive coordinators of all time.
He's great.
But the
He's
funny thing is, and I want to say this too, like that dude just blitzes. Like he just
yes,
like, what are we gonna do, Spags? Blitz him, And when it happened many times in a game, it looked like the Niners weren't prepared for it. And that's crazy to me. Like, the blitz is coming. Like, how do you not know the blitz is coming? Get the ball out of your goddamn hand. Get it out. And even
it,
third down in overtime, like obviously there was a I mean, I don't even know if it was a blitz there, but not blocking Chandler Jones there was absurd, absolutely absurd. Like what happened there? Well, were we supposed to? The line was supposed to shift to the right. Like what the hell?
yes. It was. They said on the broadcast it was a miscommunication. Obviously, exactly what you just said, where slide protection to the left, if I remember correctly, and they just did not account for Chandler Jones on the outside.
I mean, come on, man, come on. That's
It
like
can't happen. No, it can't. It can't happen in that moment. Absolutely cannot happen. But going back to Spags with the percentage that he does blitz it's hysterical because again, one of those things that Romo said multiple times, Spagnuolo is not going down without sending multiple guys. And there were several times where they weren't even disguising the blitz. At the snap count, they were up on it. It wasn't like two guys on the zero gap, and then they would fall back. It was nothing like that. It was just like, we're coming. You're gonna have to block us. Like, deal with it. Their goal was just to outnumber the amount of guys on the line of scrimmage. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But it did limit their ability to work the ball downfield in any meaningful way. There was no throws by San Fran that were over, what would you say, 17 yards down the field?
yeah, yeah,
Uh, which is not to say like the run after the catch wasn't more than that, but they weren't balls in the air weren't more than 20 yards. There's no just they just didn't have the chance to.
yeah, absolutely.
And the thing is crazy here, this is a dead horse. I'm just gonna keep beating it. I think now you have Rice as a receiver. They're gonna develop in phenomenal rookie year. Um, he's only gonna get better. If they go out in free agency and pick up a really good receiver, um, that's another weapon for Mahomes because I don't think he would never say this out loud, but he didn't have a receiver this year where he was like, he's my guy, other than Rice that I'm gonna trust him.
Rice they developed later in the year when they realized they didn't have anybody. So
Hmm.
that's why I'm saying they were a mediocre offense, not because Mahomes isn't a great quarterback, not because Kelsey isn't one of the greatest tight ends of all time, if not the greatest of all time. I'm saying because they had no receivers, zero. They had
None.
hands for a while. That was like their guy until they realized, like, wow, he just really can't catch, huh? He's
Yes.
costing us more games than anything. And then they developed Rasheed Rice, and that's Noah Gray pulled some stuff out of his butt every now and then.
A complimentary tight end. He's a complimentary tight end. You put him on another team, he's an average guy. Maybe he's a phenomenal blocker, and I don't know about it, but I think he's average.
Yeah, he's probably not playing on another team, but yeah, like it's one of those things. Like I said, they just didn't have anybody, so
Right.
they made that choice to go get rid of people on offense. They made that choice to say, like, Mahomes is good enough to figure it out. He's good enough to create, receivers, much like Brady did. Like Brady created people for the most part. I mean, granted, he wound up getting some really great receivers later on in his career, but earlier on in his career, they were giving him Deion Branch and they were like, make this guy a superstar. And Brady was like, sure.
Exactly.
So they were like, hey, Mahomes is good enough to do this. And not
Wait, but going back to what you're saying, they weren't getting rid of just guys. They were getting rid of Tyreek freaking Hill,
they got rid of a superstar. They got rid of
superstar.
best receivers in football. And here's the thing, though, it worked. They just
It
won a
worked.
championship. They
Boy, two
yeah,
championships, two
two,
championships without him.
two championships, back to back championships. They put together a sick defense and they freed up a whole lot of money. Now, I'm not saying you need to spend all that money on Tyreek Hill, but you need to have a guy that could catch the football. I don't think that's so much to ask when you're NFL wide receivers. Like, come on, you got to have somebody that catch a football. They're going to go out and they're going to get somebody that can catch the football.
And looking at who caught the game-winning touchdown for them, he was in the scrap heap from the New York Jets for a 7th-round pick. This guy in the entire year had 1 catch for the Jets, and this guy caught the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. And I mean, how can you explain that, Mr. Zanni, as a Jet fan? How can you explain that? Is that coaching? Is that just their inability to analyze talent? Is that them just being dumb, stubborn? What is it?
Oh, it's everything you just said. I mean, we're not in the room. We don't know exactly how he's like meshing with the teammates and how serious he's taking practice, stuff like that. We don't know any of that. What I do know about McCole Hardman is he's one of the fastest human beings in the NFL. And when you have somebody like that, you can figure out plays for them. So I've been saying it all year long as a Jet fan. Like, if this guy isn't touching the football 4 times a game, we don't need him touching the ball 20 times a game. We don't even need him taking 30 snaps a game. He needs to get 4 plays to him. So whatever you want to do with those 4 plays, if you want to do an end around, if you want to do a bubble screen, if you want to do a quick slant, put the football in this guy's hands and let him run. Okay. And then give me one fly pattern where you just air it out. And even if it goes 60 yards over his head, I don't care. You're just going to soften up the defense a little bit. Make them think that every time this guy's on the field, shit, this guy's a lot faster than me.
We got to back up.
We got to back up out here. And he's a game changer, right? Like, again, I'm not even talking about his hands. Just his presence on the field is changing the game because nobody can account for this guy. That's a very, very fast person. The Jets, for whatever reason, figured out we don't want to use him. He's not worthy of being used on the field. He's not worthy of getting balls thrown his way. We're just going to get rid of this guy, right? We'll keep Zach Wilson for 3 years, but we're going to get rid of McCole Hardman. So Casey, I guess, called him up and said, hey, we have nobody. We have nobody that can catch a ball. We have ultimately no speed anymore. Like, let's get this guy back and make them think. And the Jets were like, sure, yeah, no problem. Well, we'll give him a third, take a 7th rounder. Like, we'll give you a 7th rounder, whatever the hell it was. It's insane, man. It just shows you how good Andy Reid's organization is and how bad the Jets organization is. It's a very, very bad organization. I hate being a fan of theirs. And here we are. We're still talking about them. It's freaking amazing.
No, but again, it's Andy Reid's genius. When you look at the play design on that last play, it was McCole. It was, yeah.
They ran that play twice in the Super Bowl last year. Twice.
Yep.
And every time a guy goes in motion like that and stops, you know exactly where the ball is going. But once again, the Niners didn't really do their homework. And even if they did, I know how hard that is. You got the cornerback coming, trying to guard, like I said, one of the fastest guys in the NFL. He doesn't even see him stop because the dude's the tiny dude. He's stopped behind a tight end, a big-bodied guy. The other guy's running straight ahead. You know what I mean? Now it's called hike, and he sprints out this way. It's almost an impossible play to stop. It really is almost an impossible play to stop.
It was, but to your credit, it was his speed that it was the play design, it was the play call in that moment, but it was speed that they had to account for because in that moment, they're playing man defense. The cornerback is thinking he's going across the formation. He's pointing, he's yelling, snap of the ball, and the guy takes off from the flat, unguardable. Like he was, by any metric, NFL, college, high school, peewee, wide open.
Yeah, no, again, absolute Andy Reid, student of the game, absolute perfect play call. But like you said, you're accounting for the speed. It's a damn hard thing to account for. And you can't even fault the defense in that point. It's just, it is what it is. They lost the game before that play. They really did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was just obviously the tipping point and the game-winning play, but it was just so many little things. It was a death by 1,000 cuts for Kansas City. Tip your hat, 2 years in a row. They're going to go for a 3-peat next year. And the early morning favorite is San Fran, but they're right behind them in Kansas City. Would you be shocked if it's a KC San Fran Super Bowl again? Obviously not, but I mean, we are a long ways away from that right now. That's for sure.
Football's so difficult. So many things can happen. Like we were just talking about before. Like, yeah, you can set.
But Mahomes goes down, their season's over.
That's my point. You can set your favorites and do whatever you want to do. And Mahomes tears his ACL, and all of a sudden they go from winning. They were 11-6 this year. They go from 11-6 team to a 3-14 team.
Right.
You saw it with with Peyton Manning when he was on the Colts. They would win 13 games every year, 14 games, 14-2, 13-3. He went down that one year, and I think they won 3 games.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. And that's what happens, though. That is what happens. But that puts a bow on the NFL season for us. We started this podcast week 1, I think it was, and we're going strong here. But that puts a bow on the NFL season. Next week, we're going to start looking forward to the Major League Baseball season and eventually start talking about the Knicks. But I know you just wanted to mention, finally, your boy The Rock did a full heel turn. Just give the audience a little bit about what happened there.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, kind of expected, but I'm happy that it happened. He's so much fun as a heel. He really is. And he's just so much. He's just so cool. It's just so great to watch him as a heel. And they were doing a press conference, and The Rock was talking about his Samoan heritage, and him and Roman Reigns we're gonna battle, yada yada yada. And then Cody Rhodes comes out and challenges Roman Reigns for the title at Mania. Talks about The Rock and Roman's family, and then The Rock absolutely bitch slaps Cody Rhodes across the face. And then it just didn't even stop there. Like, they went in the back and they had this little segment with Triple H, and then they walked out of the arena together. Like, it was just a really fun thing to watch. Really cool. Got me really excited for WrestleMania. I didn't watch Raw yet tonight, so I'm excited to tune in tonight to see what happens. I don't think The Rock's there tonight, but he'll probably be there. I would assume pretty soon. They're going to be setting up a lot of stuff. So I have a prediction, and I don't know how true this is going to be, but things I was telling you last week, things got thrown for a loop. With CM Punk getting injured, and Brock Lesnar being at a Mania. There's a lot of stuff up in the air. So what I think is going to happen, and I think their best course of action, is Seth Rollins was involved in that skirmish, so to speak, and he was involved in the press conference. I think The Rock is going to challenge Seth Rollins to a fight at WrestleMania for the title, and then you'll have Cody Rhodes against Roman Reigns. I think The Rock is going to beat Seth Rollins, and I think Cody Rhodes is going to beat Roman Reigns. And I think you're going to have those two fight each other for probably a title unification match, or maybe not a unification, maybe just title for title, whatever the case may be. And I think you'll have them fight at SummerSlam. So now you just bridge the gap from WrestleMania to SummerSlam. And I can then see, after that happening, I could then see the bloodline, which is The Rock being involved with Roman Reigns and his family at this point. I can then see the bloodline dissolving after that SummerSlam match when The Rock loses to Cody Rhodes, which then leads to a Roman Reigns versus Rock match at either Survivor Series, but probably not. Probably WrestleMania 41. My prediction.
Dissolving. Why would they dissolve it?
Because The Rock at that point, to fight Roman Reigns, would wind up becoming a face, a baby face, a good guy. So they're not just gonna have a heel versus heel match. You can't have
Okay. Okay.
So,
It's unheard of to do that.
I mean, it's extremely rare. It'd be like you being better than me at a sport or something like
No, stop. Just stop. Golf. You can give me golf.
that. Certainly not skating.
Not skating. Definitely not skating. There's a lot going on there. But what?
No, heel versus heel is like extremely, extremely rare. It doesn't happen. You need to give the fans a choice to root for someone. You can have face versus face, which are some of my most fun matches, but I think he would turn face, and The Rock would The Rock would fight Roman, because you're going to have that fight at some point.
It is funny to watch because I always I mean, you have The Rock, obviously the wrestling persona, and then you have The Rock, obviously the movie star, and as the human being, and I mean, he has like Moana live coming out, and he like does he do these interviews as like the heel Rock? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Or is he doing it as Maui, as Dwayne Johnson? Is he going back and forth? Like, it's very, where does The Rock end and Dwayne Johnson begin is my question.
Yeah, I mean, he's an actor, so he's
Right.
acting. And so at Elimination Chamber's coming up, and they're having like these matches on Raw to see who's going to be in the Elimination Chamber, because I know people are going to be asking about, like, how is The Rock going to fight Seth Rollins? So my belief is that The Rock is going to get into the Elimination Chamber match and win the Elimination Chamber. And I know now we're all of a sudden he's going from fighting, one match to four matches, and people are gonna be like, "There's no way that's happening. There's no way The Rock is, jeopardizing himself four times." But I think he is. I think with this TKO thing, I think like he wants to be a little bit more in the mix, and I think he wants to have a couple more matches to put the cherry on top of his career.
Mm. I mean, obviously I don't watch, but I will if you have people over for the WrestleMania, maybe I'll come and take a peek. You never know. You never know. Um, but I do want to end on the Islanders, our beloved Islanders. I was there in the house on Saturday, was it? Yes, it was Saturday. Where it was a day game, and it was cool. One of our family friends' son was playing at the intermission between first and second period, so they had a lot of people there. It was awesome, and we've been there. The park at Belmont, or yeah, the park at Belmont, and it was in all its glory. Like whoever came up with this design or this vision should get a freaking raise because it was awesome. It was open well before the game. You had kids skating in the park, people tailgating, essentially drinking, getting their food, everything you could possibly ask for. And the Islanders just under Lou never have day games. They never have the matinee games. I think it's incredibly important for the fan base, for younger fans to have these matinee games. I tweeted about it. I think it's just integral to them to get younger fans into the stadium because these games are starting at 7:30 now, and you have a 5, 6 year old like we do. It's a pain in the ass to keep them awake and forget about games during the week. It just does not work.
I love the day games on Saturdays. I'm actually shocked that they don't do more of them. I really am. And especially with, like you said, with that setup now, you can bring people in, you can eat food there, you can party out there, you can get one of those little igloo things and sit in there and hang out with the people you go to the game with. I think people would make it, I'm not going to say an all day affair, but I think they would hang out a lot more. And there's a lot of fun things to do there, even with your kids. Like they have all like the carnival game setups.
Mm-hmm.
It was very good. And this is tip of the iceberg. I mean, I know we keep saying this, but that area is going to be built up and it's going to look really, really nice. It already looks nice, but it's going to look so much nicer. And it's such a shame that this wasn't in the Nassau Coliseum. Like it is such a shame. Charles Wang tried everything he could to put this vision literally in the Nassau Coliseum, and they just kept shutting it down left and right. And now it's all the way out there, and it's just so much. It's so much further. I had a friend who lives in New Jersey, and her and her husband drove to the game. And I was like, wow, that's crazy far. Like, how long did it take you? And she was like, it took us an hour and a half. I'm like, man, it takes me an hour and 10 minutes. So 20 minutes more, I can be coming from Jersey. Like it's not the greatest location. And I'm gonna keep complaining about this forever, obviously, but it just takes way too long to get there. That's my only complaint.
Yeah, I mean, yes, yes. I mean, I can't blame the ownership group for doing what they did. I think it was the way to save the organization from leaving Long Island, and they did the best with the hand that they were dealt, and they kind of cut the balance between trying to get the big market, big time sponsorships with regards to the city folk, and they try to connect it with the Long Island folk. Some people can complain and argue that both are being underserved. But I do think that they have a unique situation now. Exactly what you said. That area is different than every other big market team that's in the city. Not to poo-poo the Rangers, but I'm going to. They'll never have anything at the Garden other than obviously it being the Garden, and I understand that. But what the Islanders are building at Belmont. Like they can't do any of those outdoor activities that they're doing. They can't do, when the racetrack is up and running, they're never going to have anything like that. The retail area that they're building across Hempstead Turnpike, they're not going to have it anything like that. I mean, people are going to be like, well, it's New York City, it's New York City, but fine, I understand that. But
It is.
they, it
Question.
is, it is, but it's still New York City. Like people are city people, and people aren't. Like I'm not that person. Like I'm just not. And if you give me the choice to go to an event at UBS where I can enjoy the outdoor area and breathe nice fresh air, or go to the city where I'm just taking along the railroad and walking upstairs. Like I'm not going taking the train to Madison Square Garden and leaving Madison Square Garden. I'm just not. That is. Am I poo-pooing the city? Am I poo-pooing Madison Square Garden? Yes. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I listen, it's a fair opinion. I mean, you can't talk about shopping because they have
As soon as soon as I said it, I said, "All right, this is stupid." But that's neither here nor there.
I mean, it's a hard comparison, but I do understand what you're saying. And what their bottom line is what they're building at UBS. Tip of the iceberg right now. It looks amazing right now. 5 years from now, it's going to look insanely different. It's going to be that much better. It's awesome. Like I really dig it. I do wish it was closer. You know, I wish it
Yeah.
wasn't as far away as it is, but they're building something really nice, and what they're doing with the Belmont is supposed to be, phenomenal as well. So hopefully that, I think, what would you say, about 2 years, I think, for that?
Well, 2 years minimum. The stakes is being run up in Saratoga, but I think the actual project itself is going to even take longer than that. I think that's how long it's going to take for the track and like the actual track to be built. I don't know what they're doing with the grandstands.
Gotcha. So okay, so let's say within the next 3 years.
Mhm.
So I think it's a fair thing to say within the next 5 years, that whole area is going to look very, very different.
Agreed. Agreed. And with all that, I tweeted about it. They probably gave out more first game certificates in that game alone than they had all season. They absolutely laid an egg in that game.
They didn't show up at all.
It was brutal. It was low event hockey. They reverted back to all the bad lane ways. And Calgary had been playing better, even though they lost to the Rangers tonight. The Rangers are absolutely on fire since the All-Star break, but they got outplayed. They got outplayed. They got outclassed. They got outchanced. Except for the third period when they were down 3-0 and the game was not in doubt at that point in time. They were controlling the game then, but it was who cares? Who cares at that point? I don't care if you can now chance them, out attempt them. The game wasn't in doubt at that point in time, and that's disappointing because they have 30 games left. New Jersey won again tonight. They've now leapfrogged them in the standings, and they're sitting in fifth place in the Metro. While the wild card standings, they are 4 games out, and Detroit and Toronto. Detroit has a game in hand. Toronto has 2 games in hand. They got to get it. They got to get to their game early. They got to get to their game often. And Watt today at practice was funny. His practices are obviously totally different. High pace, high energy. And 40 minutes in, he was apparently just yelling at them that they were out of shape and they should be embarrassed or whatever he was saying in his French accent, that they shouldn't be, tired 40 minutes into this practice. And I just kept imagining the movie Miracle with him just doing gassers, blue line to blue line, red line to red line, just yelling again and again. And that that country club lifestyle that everybody complained about under Barry sometimes, and then obviously under Lane is gone because he demands perfection. My fear is just they just don't have the roster to do it, and
Well,
they're getting into that heap of teams right now. They're kind of get lost in the muck.
they don't have the roster to do it. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. I think they can make a fun run and make it fun for the fans. They don't have a Stanley Cup roster. That's just being realistic. Um, I listen. I hope that and I've been saying this every week. I hope we go out and make a splash during the trade deadline. I wish that we can make a splash during free agency. The Islanders have been trying. They've been
Mhm.
trying to sign people during free agency. Nobody will come. So I don't know what that is, and maybe that changes in the future. Maybe it changes under Wah. Maybe it changes with the arena being built up even better and stuff of that nature. I don't know. I hope it changes because we've been linked to so many big free agents and they just wind up signing elsewhere, even when we are supposedly offering more money.
Or just use us to drive up their price. And I mean, it happens. It definitely happens, and that's kind of the nature of when you're the small market team in the big market. You're always be the little brother, and that's kind of what their mantra has been. Us against the world. It's been cool. It's been not cool. I'm sorry. It's been kind of a rough year. I had hope when Watt came over. They didn't get that new coach boost that it seems like every other team gets, where new coach comes in and they rattle off 5 out of 6 games or they get a win. They haven't gotten that. Now, granted, the opponents that they've faced, other than Calgary and Montreal, are all playoff teams or Stanley Cup contenders. So we'll see. But they have a winnable game up next against Seattle, and then going into the Stadium Series, where I'm still on the fence whether or not I'm going. I had tickets, and I didn't get the tickets. I'm still waiting for those tickets to drop. Well, I am monitoring the situation as the week goes. I have a sitter lined up. I want to go, but we shall see. To
Yeah,
be continued.
good luck with that, pal. I will talk to you and make sure that you had a fun time in a freezing.
Yes. It's one of those things where I want to go just to say that I went to the outdoor game and will never have an inkling to go again, because let's face it, it's a hockey game. You're at a football stadium. The sightlines are not going to be good. You're not going to be able to see the action that well. I'm going just for the sake of going. And it's an Islander Ranger game, so that's cool. But I have no desire to go to MetLife. I have no desire for the commute there, the commute home. I'm just hoping for a good game and hopefully for an Islanders win.
Yeah, I listen, I get it. I really do. I just feel like the view is going to be terrible and
Terrible.
going to be really, really cold. And driving there is going to take 3 hours. So,
I
whole lot of things.
I know it's a week away, and it's funny to say that because we're expecting what 6, 7 inches tomorrow, but the forecast is like in the mid 40s, so it's not going to be, because the last time it was at Yankee Stadium for Islander Rangers, it was like in the 20s,
Yeah.
and I was monitoring the temperature, not to be that person. If it was dipping in the 20s, I was like, easy decision, definitely not going.
Yeah, 40 is not terrible. I mean, it depends though. Is it 40 and windy? Because if it's 40 and
Right,
windy, that could be bad as well. But
right.
I either way, you're gonna have fun. You'll have a blast, and hopefully, like you said, Islanders play well, get a win, would be cool.
It will be cool. But you got anything else? Anything else you want to say for the audience?
No, I mean, I can give you some trivia if you want.
Oh no, embarrass me with some trivia. What do we got?
Can we not do sports trivia? Would that be a thing that you're okay with?
Oh yeah, probably better at
All right. Let me see what I got here.
it. All right, I did have one. This is gonna be really hard. This is gonna be really hard. I'm gonna say it, and if it doesn't come to you, don't be like, oh, well, it's hard. NHL trivia. There are two teams in the NHL. Their names, not the city, but the names, have their origin from the Civil War or have a link to the Civil War.
You're asking the wrong person.
If you put some thought into it, one, no chance you're gonna get, but one, you'll get it.
The Civil War, huh?
Hmm.
I have no clue. The Capitals? No.
No, but a good guess. But a good guess. One team is in the Metropolitan Division.
Yeah, that helps. That helps tremendously. I can go through the Metropolitan in my head. The Flyers, the Rangers, the Devils, Islanders, um, the Penguins, and there's only one other team, I think, the Blue Jackets. The Hurricanes. The
You
Hurricanes.
already said it. It is the Blue Jackets.
Really, the Blue Jackets. Oh, okay. Oh, that makes sense, obviously. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I went through.
And
I think I just went through the whole Metropolitan Division.
you did. You did. It was the Blue Jackets. Everybody, they're. It's odd because their symbol or their mascot is like some kind of bug-looking blue jacket or whatever. But their symbol and their actual thing. That's why they have the cannon at the stadium. It's like a Civil War thing. They're like the Blue Jackets
I think they're
for the uniform.
like a star with like a red and blue thing. I can't remember now.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like Civil War based. And then the other one, um, it had to do with a city that was burned during the Civil War, but they no longer play in the city anymore.
Uh,
But the burning is the key.
the Flames.
There you go. They were the Atlanta Flames, and Atlanta was burned during the Civil War.
Wow. Okay. And so they moved from Atlanta to Calgary.
Yeah.
Wow, when was that?
A while ago. And Atlanta is now vying for another freaking team in the NHL. They had the Atlanta Flames, they had the Atlanta Thrashers, and now they are pushing to get another team in Atlanta. I don't understand it. When you have a city not embrace the NHL. I mean, granted, they were not good, and the Thrashers had no chance of being good, and with the new rules, they have better chances of being good sooner. But when you have teams go to the city twice and they fail twice, how do you go there a third time?
You can't. You absolutely cannot. Like, I'm sorry, unless it's like 50 years from now, you can't. It's just,
Right.
you can't do that. But we were talking about how Vegas has to get a baseball team and Vegas has to get a basketball team.
Basketball team. But the whole thing with Oakland, I thought this was a sealed done deal. It's not 100% yet that the A's are in Vegas. Is that correct? Did you hear about this?
I'm not positive. No.
Because I saw drawings that were rendered showing the team and the stadium that was being built in Vegas. And Vegas is, I've never been there. You have, obviously. Seems like the coolest city in the world. It's just like, hey, we want to build this thing. They just make the city just bigger and bigger and bigger. They have endless land, it seems like, out there. And the city really embraces these sports. I mean, between the Raiders that went there, obviously the Golden Knights winning the championship and being have as good as they have been since they entered the league. But this tourist city is much more than just a tourist city now. It's really become this like just mecca for sports.
Yeah, and it was a genius idea. It really was. And now they're just making that genius idea even better by bringing these professional sports because this is like fighters heaven, right? Where all the big fights go there. But now you're capitalizing on a complete other side of sports and you're bringing in football, you're
Mhm.
bringing in baseball, bringing in hopefully basketball. Like you're now bringing in every sport. It's just and I was saying this to you I think yesterday if the Jets are playing the Raiders, you're going to have so many Jet fans say, "Oh, we're going to plan our boys trip that year where we're going to go
100%.
to Vegas and we're going to watch the Jets play." And every team does that to the point where the Raiders almost never get a home game. It's
Right.
pretty crappy when you look at it in that perspective, but it does exactly what the city wants it to do, which is drive revenue and bring in tourism. So it works. It works tremendously. It really does. I think it would be cool if they can somehow connect the dots for the overlapping sports. So like let's say the Yankees are playing in September or October, I guess. Let's say the Yankees are playing in October and they're playing, you know, the Oakland Athletics, but who would be the Las Vegas Athletics, I guess, at this point. Having like the Rangers or the Islanders play a game as well against the Vegas Knights in October, like opening up there or something like that. I think that would be pretty unique because then you can actually like, all right, we're gonna go to this sport and then we're gonna see our team play hockey as well. It'd be pretty cool if they can figure out something like that.
Yeah, I mean they definitely can figure it out for the football games
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, they can flex games, right?
Yeah. It seems just like it's just a cool city, and like you said, um, so much to do other than gambling. They just have developed so much stuff out there, to make it such an attraction.
Yeah, the food is amazing. They have every big chef in the world, and every big chef in the world has their own place out there. Then the shows are just phenomenal, from comedians to magicians, to like Broadway quality shows to the Cirque du Soleil shows, which are insane. There's so much things you can do there, and you can actually go, like touring around where you're doing the Hoover Dam and the Grand
Yeah.
Canyon. You can go, skydiving and zip lining. I'm like an infomercial apparently for but there is a lot of stuff there to do. It's a really fun trip. I think that just people just think that it's we're having our bachelor party or bachelorette party. We just get drunk, go to the club, and which they have as well. Obviously, they have clubs and pool parties and all that crap if that's what you're into. But not really my scene.
Right. It looks awesome, and I'll get out there eventually. But good on the city. But the reason why the NHL constantly wants to do this expansion is because the league fee for expansion is like up to $800 million.
Really?
And yeah, so those all those owners have to pay the other owners this fee just to even get into the league, and that's how they're, driving their revenue as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, but I mean, 34 teams is a lot because they want to add 2 more teams, which is it's just a ton. It's a ton.
It is. Yeah. It could be worse. It could be 162 games.
Yes, yes, and they're not going to do that. They're definitely not going to do that. But it'll be cool. It was a great Super Bowl. I don't want to say an all timer, but it was definitely an instant classic going into overtime. Kind of a dud in the first half, but really picked it up. So why don't you plug your YouTube and your Instagram, because I know you have a lot of stuff coming out, a lot of posts, a lot of videos, and that's all exciting for you.
Cool. It's at the_Zanni_show.
And that's for both Instagram and YouTube.
That's for everything, baby. Minus
And
X.
what's up?
That's for everything minus X.
I know. And then X is A to Z Sports at A to Z NY Sports. I nailed it. No big deal. Crushed it.
That's my guy. Crushed it.
All right. Good to be with you. When we come back next Monday, the Islander Ranger game would have happened. I either went or I didn't go. And we'll have the outlook on that.
Yes, sir.
Have a good one, bud.